Hello, my name is Tobias. I'm with the Discount Vending Store, and today we're going to be going over training for your Duravend machines. There are three big things that you need to know for these machines. Number one, make sure that the machine is plugged into a surge protector or a surge suppressor, which will look like this. Make sure it's not just a power strip, it's a surge protector or a surge suppressor. The machine should plug into it, and then this will plug into the wall. Number two, make sure not to unplug any wires inside of the machine while the machine is on. So if we're changing a component on the inside of the machine or checking a wire harness connection, make sure that the machine is off before unplugging any of those harnesses. Number three, make sure the machine is off for a full 24 hours between moving it from one location to another, including when you first receive it. This lets the fluids in the cooling deck settle and avoids flash frying the compressor. When you first receive your machine, you're going to want to make sure there's no damage to it. So make sure to inspect all around the outside edge of the machine and see if there's any damage to the cardboard, the strapping, the wood blocking that's down here, and make sure there's no impact marks, scuff marks, scratches, tears, anything that could affect the machine. If that's the case, you just want to make sure to note that before you sign for the shipment of it. If you have curbside shipping, it'll look a lot like this. That'll just mean you'll have to unpackage it yourself. So to do that, we have some wood blocking down here that's held in place with nails here. So you'll just need to get a crowbar to pry this piece of wood off of the bottom down here. And then you'll need to lift the machine up off of these two blocks. And the rest of it is all able to be removed with a knife. So you're able to cut these straps. There's a layer of cardboard, there's a layer of foam, and then there's a layer of bubble wrap or saran wrap. And all that can just be removed with a knife. Be careful not to cut the machine while doing that. If your machine is white glove, the carrier will unpackage and haul the packaging away for you. So to move the machine, including removing the blocks from the bottom of it, you'll want to have a pallet jack. You'll be able to get these in a couple of different places, including Uline. To use a pallet jack, you'll just slide it underneath the machine itself, engage the lever on the bottom here, pump it upwards, and from that point, you're able to move it around relatively easily. And when it's in its final location or you've removed the blocks from underneath it, you'll just pull the handle back upward and let it settle back down. When you first receive your machine, your keys will be zip tied to the power cable on the back of the machine. Your machine's going to have 3 keys like this. To open the machine, you'll take one of those keys, you'll line up the nub on the front of it with a notch on the inside of that keyhole. You'll rotate to the right to pop out the handle, and then you rotate the handle to the left, pulling towards yourself as you do. So unlock the machine door, pull out this right door, and then you can open the glass door to access the product on the inside. Your machine comes with 3 keys. If you lose any of these keys, you can buy another lock core with a new set of keys. That replacement is very simple. Okay, so replacing that lock core is very simple. Insert the key into the lock and rotate it so it's engaged. Take something small and thin like this pen and push in on the nub on the inside and then towards yourself and pull out on the key. And then that's how the lock core comes out. And then if you have a new lock core with new keys, you'll be able to push that right in. You rotate it until it locks into place. And then you'll be able to pull your key out just like that. So if you lose keys, you can just get another lock core from us. If you lose all of your keys, you'll have to drill out this lock. Okay?
You're good to go.
When your machine arrives, you may have zip ties on one or both sides of the trays. Those are just to keep the trays from sliding forward and smashing the glass in. You can cut both of those, and you'll need to be able to access these trays. When you're pulling out trays to stock them, you'll lift up on the black tab on both sides and then pull out towards you. You should not experience any resistance pulling this tray towards you. If you do, the wire harness that connects the back of these motors to the tray is caught behind the tray below it. If you're meeting that resistance, don't keep pulling this or you rip all the wires out of the back of those motors. Instead, you'll just need to loosen the tray below it, pull that out an inch or so, which will give that wire harness enough room to move freely. The tray can come all the way forward, and then down at an angle, you can let go of it while you're stocking product. When you're stocking product, you'll want to stock from back to front. Make sure your product is leaning towards the back of the machine as much as possible. That way it vends effectively. If your coil is rotated in such a way that stocking your product and having it lean backward would cause it to fall outside of the bottom of it, we can rotate this coil so that the bottom of it holds the product in place. To rotate a coil, simply grab it and pull towards you. You can pull pretty hard, it's going to be outside of the machine like this. If you've pulled hard enough, you can rotate it freely. If you haven't pulled it hard enough, you won't be able to rotate it, so just pull it a little bit harder. You can rotate it freely. We recommend thin products like bars and candy to have the tip of that coil at what we call a 6 or 7 o'clock position. So when we stock it, the product is able to fit into place and not slide out the bottom. So the cooling deck in your machine will need to be cleaned about once every 6 months in most locations. If you're in a dirtier location like a laundromat, you want to clean that about once every 3 months instead. To clean a cooling deck, you'll need to access the front vent on it. So we're going to need to pull this bucket off. To do so, wall of the cooling deck, there are 2 holes with a metal rod on them. We'll pull that rod towards the center of the machine and hook it on the top part of this hole here, and we'll do that on both sides. Okay. Once those rods are in place, we can pull the bucket forward and off of the machine and access the vent here. Clean this vent with anything that's going to get the dust and dirt off of those fins without bending them. It's super important to clean this even if it doesn't look dirty, because the cooling deck is constantly intaking air through this vent, and any buildup is going to be sucked into the system. Be very sure when you're cleaning this not to disturb the temperature probe here. We don't want this to contact metal at all. Once you're done cleaning the machine, we're going to put the bucket back on. There are 2 pegs on the bottom of this bucket that we're going to line up with those holes. Once those are in place, we'll be able to slide the bucket forward. Sometimes you'll need to hook it around this door frame, so you'll need to push it to the left a little bit. And then when that's in place, we can disengage these pins. On the inside of the machine, we'll have a set of guaranteed vent sensors, one on each side that's firing a laser from one side to the other. This will detect when a product falls into the product bin. If nothing breaks that sensor, the customer is not charged. Slot is marked as an error. So for that reason, it's super important we clear errors every time we restock the machine. When you put the bucket back on the machine from cleaning a cooling deck, make sure to try purchasing a product to make sure those sensors aren't blocked. If anything breaks on the inside of the bin here, splashes liquid up on the inside of these sensors, just make sure to clean those off. While we're talking about the compressor, make sure to store nothing underneath the machine, and make sure the machine has about 5 inches of space between the back of the machine and the wall that it's in front of, so that there's enough adequate airflow for the compressor to cool or receive air properly. When your machine arrives, your topper or marquee will not be installed on the top like this. It'll be on the inside of the machine in a bubble wrap. You'll be able to take that out of the bubble wrap, put it on top of the machine. There are some included screws and pre-drilled holes for you to screw those into to install the marquee on top of the machine. You'll just need a stepladder or some way to access the top of the machine. There's shelving on the inside of the machine that you can use to store extra product. Keep in mind this part of the machine is not cooled, but this is just space that you can store whatever you want. This is the power box of the machine. Important on here is the circuit breaker we can use to turn the machine on or off. If you turn the machine off, make sure to wait 30 seconds before turning it back on to allow the compressor to settle. Again, make sure not to turn the machine on until 24 hours have passed if you've just received the machine or if you've moved it from one location to another. To pull bills out of the bill validator, you'll just need to engage the back of the magazine. You'll either slide this forward or pull backward depending on the model of bill validator you have, and then pull up on the magazine and back. That'll allow you access to the bills on the front here. On most models, you'll also be able to pull a flap on the back of it to access bills from the top. On this model, it's actually on the back here. There's a flap that you can open here and access the bills from the side. You'll need to clean your bill validator every couple of months when it is really dirty. To do that, you're gonna pull off the bottom optical eye of the bill validator. On some models, you'll pull up on the bar and then pull back towards you. You'll be able to clean the optical eye here, as well as these ribs here and here. When cleaning a bill validator, you'll want to use just a damp washcloth. You can use a drop of dish soap if it's really grimy. You don't want to use anything alcohol-based that can ruin the internal components of the bill validator. Once that's clean, you'll just put that back in, and you'll usually hear it re-engage. On other models of bill validators, you'll just have 2 tabs on the side. You'll pinch together and pull this outward as well. Your machine's gonna have a bill validator, which is not going to give change back in the form of bills. It's only gonna take bills. So there's never a reason to leave bills inside. You don't need to load bills as change into the machine. Just like your bill validator, your coin mechanism is gonna need to be cleaned once every few months. There's 2 places to clean that. One is where the coins come in on the top. You can open this flap outwards. You'll clean these ribs here, as well as these plastic components on the right. The other place to clean those is about midway down. There's a tab you can push in here. Open this flap outward. These ribs here, as well as these plastic components on the right. Same, just like the bill validator, you can clean that with a damp washcloth, drop of dish soap if it's really grimy, nothing alcohol based. These 2 plastic components on the right are also where coin jams will occur if your machine is experiencing those. In these spaces here, so make sure there's no coins stuck there. The machine will let you know if a coin jam is occurring if this red disc light is flashing. When you're loading change into the coin mechanism, a lot of people want to open this up and put coins directly in. The machine does not see change loaded this way. Change has to come in through the coin slot in the machine. There are 2 ways to load change. The first is to purchase items. You can purchase products using just change. The item's going to vend, you'll restock it right away, and all change that's put in that way is loaded into the memory of the machine. The other place to load change into the machine is going to be on the cash prefill option on the menu here. We'll just scroll down to that, hit enter, and then any change we put in right here is going to increase this amount by the coin that we put in. When we're done with that, we'll hit enter to come out of that menu. If your machine has a card reader, it'll be installed here. There are many different models of card reader that we carry. All you're really going to need to worry about is making sure that that's attached to your account. When the machine is shipped out to you, we'll give you an onboarding email with a serial number for your card reader, walking you through how to attach that to your bank account, everything that's going to need to be set up on that end. If your card reader is giving you an error indicating that it's receiving connection, there are antennas in the inside of the machine for the card reader that we can pull out on top of this door here so that the card reader is not pulling a signal in through all the metal of the machine. If you're still receiving issues with connectivity, contact the card reader manufacturer and they'll have multiple options to help you with that. To access the service menu for your machine, all you're going to need to do is open it, and the screen is going to prompt you for your password. The default password for these machines is 6 zeros, so 0000000. You can change this password. We don't recommend changing it. The only way to access that password is to have the machine door open, and if you've changed that password and forget what you changed it to, you'll need to purchase another motherboard. To navigate the menu on this back end, there are arrows on the keypad, so 2 has an up arrow, 6 has a right arrow, for example. We can use that to navigate the menus here. To clear faults on your machine, you'll come to clear slot error and hit enter on that, and then enter again before this timer expires. You may see some coils in the inside of the machine rotate to rehome those motors. That's totally normal. If you don't hit enter before that timer expires, you'll see a screen here that'll let you know which slots are having an error, and then what that error type is. Most often, this will be an understock error, which will be 04 or 34, depending on your machine, which will let you know that something span on the inside of the machine and didn't trip the product vend sensor. Clearing these slot errors every time you restock the machine to make sure the machine knows that there's product in every slot. To test a slot in your machine to make sure the product is going to vend properly, hit enter on this test slots function. If we're going to test slot 15, we're going to put in 15 as the start slot, hit enter. We want to leave 15 as the end slot and hit enter. And recycle times will always want to be 1. Once I hit enter here, we'll see slot 15 will vend, and we can see that product dispensed correctly. If I wanted to test multiple slots to see if each of them was working properly, I could have a start slot be 21, and then an end slot be, let's say, 23. Cycle time is still going to be 1, and hitting enter here will have each of those slots vend 1 at a time, so we can check multiples at once. To set the prices of the products on the inside of your machine, we'll navigate to the item and slot tab on the top, then down to set price, and hit enter. This UI is the same as testing slots. And then down to the set price option and hit enter. From here, we'll input the start slot of the product we want to change the price of. Let's say slot 15 and hit enter. And if I'm only changing item 15, I'll hit enter again on the end slot. And then I'll input the price I want 15 to be. Let's say $1. 100. Hitting enter here will save that price. If I wanted to change the price of a whole row, let's say the candy bar row, we'd put in 21 as the start slot, hit enter, and then put 26 or whatever the last slot of your row is and hit enter. And then whatever price I input here is going to change the price for every slot 21 through 26. Let's make that $15. They're luxury candy bars. And that's how you set prices. All right, the stocking capacity of items on your machine are preset to 199. This lets the machine know not to keep track of those internal values. We recommend leaving the setting like this, so any misinput of information, either when setting the stock or restocking the machine, doesn't prevent the machine from vending items that are inside of it. To change the temperature on the inside of the machine, we'll navigate to the temp setting tab, and then down to set target temp, and hit enter. This measurement is in degrees Celsius, so right now the machine's cooling to 5 degrees Celsius. If you wanted that to be a little warmer, we could set that to 8 degrees Celsius, for example, and hit enter to save that. If we wanted that to be colder, we could set it to 4 degrees Celsius, which is as cold as the machine can get. Here are some optional settings you can use for the payment of your machine. Navigate to the Sale and Payment tab, and then all the way down to Payment Setting and hit enter. From here, we'll hit enter on the option we want to examine. The accept limit determines how much money can be put into the machine at one time for the purchase of a product. For example, when the max credit is set to $5, a customer can put in a $5 bill or 5 $1 bills, but nothing beyond that point. This keeps your machine from giving out too much change all at once. Make sure this value is larger than your most expensive item, otherwise customers won't be able to purchase that item. To change this value, simply input the new max credit that you would want to use. The Auto Change tab determines whether a customer receives change right away after a purchase or needs to engage the coin return to receive their change. This is enabled by default, which means if a customer puts in $5 to purchase a $4 item, once that item is vended, they'll receive $1 in change. If the setting is disabled, the customer would then be able to buy a $1 item without having to reach down, pick up change, put it back into the machine. The coin exchange allows customers to put in bills and receive change without purchasing an item. This is disabled by default. If you would like to enable it, navigate to Enable, which would allow customers to use your machine as a change machine. Do not edit any values on the inside of the machine without first consulting a technician from Remark Vending. Changing values on the inside of the machine without consultation can stop the machine from functioning properly. You can have multiple vends set up on your machine by going to the System Setting tab, down to Multi-Vend, and hitting Enter. With the multi-vend enabled, the customer will be able to hit the multi-vend button and select multiple items to pay for all at once. For example, slot 11, slot 21, another slot 21, a third slot 21, and then 25. All those items would be totaled together, and then once purchased, it would vend from each of those items one at a time. Thank you so much for watching this video on the training of a Duravend vending machine from the Discount Vending Store. Have a great day.